Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we are speaking with a Team Elite Physique coach who has been personal training for nearly 20 years and prepping others since 2016. She is a wife, a mother, and a 40-year-old natural IFBB bikini pro. This athlete began her competition journey in 2012 and won her pro card in 2019 after 7 national shows, and she coached herself for every season since her second competition. Welcome to the show, Melanie Albinio. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here finally.
Yes, finally. I'm so happy too. I'm glad to have you, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about you.
Cool. I'm excited.
Yay. So first question, I ask everybody this question, which is, do you have anything you do, think about, or maybe a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage?
Yeah, I always have a song. So every season is different. Every competition season I've been in, it has been different song. Like I find that one song and it's like my power song. And I don't listen to my headphones when I'm in the lineup, but literally will sit there and kind of mouth the words and sing it. Like one that was very funny was I did Milkshake, the song My Milkshake Brings. Yeah, I don't know why, but it was my jam. It was like the year it came out, because like I've been competing forever.
A
And
long
I
time.
remember I was mouthing the words and the girl next to me was like, that's my jam. And we literally sat there and sang at like the little mouth, quietly before we get on. But that tends to be my last thing, a sip of water, touch of gloss, and whatever song is my jam at the time.
That's amazing. And when was the last time you stepped on stage?
2019. So
Okay,
the day I got my pro card, that was the last time. And I had gone into prep. I took a good year off, and because as a natural athlete, especially, you really have to take time between shows. And I took a year off just to build and come in, as best I could. And then I was on contract and everything, and then COVID happened. So
yeah.
and so I kept up as much as I could. And then I pulled back the reins for a while just for different purposes. But yeah, I'm hoping to be able to step on stage this year before the end. So we'll see.
Oh, okay. That's what I was wondering. Because when I was looking at NPC News, I'm like, I see her pro card win.
Yeah.
But I didn't see a pro debut.
Nope. So, and it feels a little weird to be like so many years post winning my pro card. Because when I was aiming to get my pro card, as you said, I did 7 national. I really tried. I feel like some people do more than 7, but I was definitely in it for that title. I wanted it. And I always hated when girls would get it and then they disappeared. I'd be like, that's not fair. Like, I want to compete. Give it to me. But then everything just happened and there was so much on top of the COVID and everything that I just had to break. I never broke from training. It's always been my therapy and stuff, but I just had to break from just focusing on myself in that manner more so. And I had a lot of other things to give attention in life to. Give my life to, my daughter and everything else that was going on during that time. And so, yeah, I've always hated that. So I'm hoping that this is the year that I get on stage. So we'll see. I haven't really talked too much about it yet. I'm one of those people I've always prepped in private. And so nobody ever knows until it's like 2 weeks out. I'm like, oh yeah, by the way.
By the way, I'll be on stage very soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't see, I mean, you do, but a lot of times we see the glamorized, like this person got their pro card in 2 shows or in 1 show. And I think it's so nice to hear from athletes who have been going at it or did go at it for a while. I'm entering my 10th year of competing next year. You've been in this for a long time. 2012 to 2024. That's
12 years.
Yeah, that's 12 years. And I think when you look at it like that, you do realize what a long-term game bodybuilding is, and it's a lifestyle. I realized I couldn't imagine my life without it now, like without prepping food, without going to the gym. I don't know if
Yeah.
you feel that way too, where it just feels like second nature.
Oh, it so is. And that's something I always talk to my clients about. And I'm like, I don't want you to have a fit moment. I want you to have a fit life.
Mm.
You know, they'll see pictures that, you know, I don't do a lot. And they'll see a picture pop up from a vacation and they're like, holy crap, coach, you're jacked. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I am because I live this life. I don't aim for a moment. The moment is icing on the cake to my life. So when you get on stage and you get a showcase and whether you do the photo shoots, whatever, that's like the icing on the cake. But everything we do on the daily, like that's the joy for me. Like, yeah,
Mm.
it sucks sometimes. Sometimes you want to have a burger and not chicken breast, but like, you know, it's such a thing when you make it a lifestyle that, and I hate to say it like this because it almost sounds like it's egotistical, but it kind of is. Like I walk into a room with everybody walks in with the way you look. People, when they see you walk in a certain way. And egotistically, I like to walk in and people would be like, dang, that old lady's fit, you
She's
know?
fit, yeah.
And it's just like a status symbol. And I think the older you get, that more that is. If I go to a restaurant and like I'm in the bathroom and some woman compliments me in my arms, it's like day made. I'm like, oh, thanks. Yeah, I am.
I love that. Well, we
Mm.
work so hard too. I think it's okay to take pride in the way that we look, especially if what we're doing to achieve that look is healthy and something that others could be able to achieve and inspired to do. I think that it can be problematic when we attach, and this happens a lot with competitors, as I'm sure you see with your clients, but when a competitor attaches to a physique or a look that really required some unsustainable efforts to get to, instead
Mhm.
of looking at, okay, well, what's something I can sustain, maintain, and have a healthy, I don't know if balance is the right word, but a healthy lifestyle with consideration for other areas of my life too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I do, and I that's another thing too I'm always talking about. And I have to preach that to myself because I think anybody who is a bodybuilder, like there's a certain level of perfectionists that we are. Like we were
Mhm.
just harder. Like we're not when back in the day when people would tell me they wanted to compete, especially before I worked with Team Elite and stuff, I'd say, why? Well, now I know why they come to me to Team Elite. Like they're ready for that level, you know. But they'd say, oh, I want to compete. And I'd say, why? Like I want to be in really good shape. And I'm like, that's not why we compete. Like there, you can't look at a show body and say, I want to look like her because you're not going to look like her except for that day. Like nobody looks like that except for that day.
She
Like
doesn't even look like that. She didn't
she
look
doesn't
like
even
that in
look
her
like that.
stage photo.
Yeah, she's gloss, she's under light, she's
Uh-huh.
posing. And so that's a big thing there. And I love that you're, you know, really with that. I know I've had clients work with you and stuff, and they've loved working with you, by the way.
Aw.
And you know, and that's something I'm really big on is just like having that the right mindset with it because you know, you cannot expect to look like a competitor, especially a pro level competitor 24/7. It is just not going to happen. They don't look like that. And you feel like trash most of the time at that point. Like you don't
Yeah.
want to look like that year round because energy is up for like an hour and then you're just tanked all the time. And that's just no.
I think it took me getting to like a really like conditioned stage look that was
uh,
the most competitive I've been to appreciate even more when I'm in like my healthy improvement season
yeah.
body because
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is how I am supposed to feel,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
like that. But there is that the beauty of bodybuilding too of like you're pushing your threshold
Mhm.
consistently that over time, if you spend the time reversing, you spend the time recovering, you even have
Yeah.
these long maintenance phases, like you yourself are a great
Yeah.
example. You've taken a lot of time off, but you've maintained a really healthy physique and life. So
Yep.
now your threshold is almost easier to maintain at a higher level. So you're just reaching new levels, but without all this like mental pressure and judgment or
Yeah.
stress.
Oh, totally. And you're already in the routine of it. Like you're, you know, when you live that life and you prep your food, like, you know, twice a week, I prep up stuff. In fact, my daughter, when she comes in, if there's not like chicken or shrimp or hard boiled eggs ready to go, she's like, Mom, what am I supposed to eat? And I'm like, food.
Love that.
She's like, there's nothing cooked.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is another great point of discussion. I mean, I
Mhm.
have so many things I want to talk to you about. So in my mind, I'm like, do I go down your coaching route? Do I go down your personal route? I'm going to go your personal route first.
Sounds good.
So You just brought up your daughter, and you also
Uh,
said earlier that there were life things, that you were focusing on over the last 4.5-ish years. So what have you seen the impact or the influence of being in the fitness industry and being a competitor? What have you seen that do to your family life or impact on your family and influence as well?
well, I mean, a lot, especially at first, because when you first start competing and you just kind of make it all about yourself. Like everything's about you. I can't eat this. I can't go there. I need to go home. My meal timing, and you're just like, and my daughter was like 3 when I started competing, so she was little.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would get her. It was terrible. We were living in South Florida. My husband is also a professional MMA fighter,
Yeah.
so that's one of the reasons we were in South. That is the reason we were in South Florida for a few years, and that's why I started competing. And so his schedule was so crazy, and I would take her with me to the little like complex gym we had to do my cardio in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. Like I literally have photos of her laying there half
Love
asleep,
that.
4 o'clock in the morning before I had to go to work because I had to take her with me. And because my husband he wasn't able, and plus he's in Alaska a lot of that time too, so I had to take her. And I really made it about myself for a long time. And then I stopped that whole, like, it's not about me. Yes, my prep was about me, but I really learned how to not, like I said earlier to you, like I don't even talk about when I'm on prep. And I started doing that even with my family. Like let them know, hey, I'm gonna do this show. I think it's on my horizon, but and I just go through the motion. And because I was prepping food, and my husband was a dieter too because of MMA, he's got to watch his weight. Different style. They don't do it for
Different.
aesthetics. So they do it a whole nother
Same,
level.
same, but different.
Yeah, same but different. We diet a really long time. They diet short time, super hard.
Yeah.
But so we already kind of had like that fit life. So that part was easy. And like my family, both my husband and my daughter are gym rats. My daughter was a competitive gymnast forever. She's a competitive cheerleader. She's really good athlete. Loves strength training. My husband lifts every single day almost, as well. Take a few days off here and there. So we're already fit minded. So that part of it was never an issue. It was making it about me. And so I quit saying I can't, and I started saying I don't. That's not what I'm having. I just changed my mindset. So it's no longer I can't have that. I wouldn't. I'd walk through, and I'm sure a lot of competitors can know what this is. And you walk the grocery store and you'd smell the pastries, and I'd be like, smells like last place. I would always like do these little things to try to teach myself not to want those things. And I had to stop doing that because
Yeah.
my daughter was picking up on my
Mhm.
lingo. Smells like last place, and she'd be like, oh, this tastes like I'm gonna, XYZ. And I'd be like, all right, language is done. I stopped using the F word, which was fat. And because as a competitor, you always feel fat during your, it's as women, period. Like one day we're amazing. We think we're the best in the world. And the next day we're like, oh man. And so I would say, and I stopped all of that stuff because I didn't want either one of my family members to think, my daughter or my husband, to think that I was not proud of where I was, but I really didn't want her to use those terms. I didn't want her to diet. So there was never any dieting. It was just I'm on prep or off prep. And I got rid of cheat meal, the title cheat meal too. And I don't use that with my clients either. We do not cheat meals. That's a negative mindset. And food should never be negative. It really shouldn't even be positive because it doesn't have emotion. That's what I always say. There's no emotion with food, so why are we going to be emotional about it? I'm not cheating on my chicken breast because I'm having a burger. Like it's just, I'm not. It doesn't care. Like, there's no emotion. So I got rid of the word cheat meal. I stopped saying fat, and I stopped saying I can't. And that was really impactful in my house, in my preps. Just, you know,
When you said you're not cheating on your chicken breast, I imagine like a chicken breast just keying your car or something when you
being all mad in the fridge. Like, sure, go ahead and have that said.
Oh man. I love your ability to acknowledge the value of language and the impact of it, not just on yourself, but potentially on your family too, and how you were able to correlate the language to what it was actually like promoting or not promoting. And it does matter because language has connotation, it has meaning, it's important we consider it. Like you said, a cheat meal insinuates that you are going off your plan, but I think it's important that we plan for meals out. And it's
Yeah.
just or meal that's not tracked perfectly. And that doesn't mean it's the gnarliest greasiest thing on the menu. It's just you're going out, enjoy it, be mindful, honor your body. Like that's
100%.
a better
Yeah.
language choice. And
Yes.
then you sing to like the smells like last place. That's one of my pet peeves. I never say that on here because a lot of people I interview probably would say it smells like last place. And I don't necessarily shame anybody who does say that, but it is a pet peeve of mine because
Yeah.
I think it promotes this idea that it's the food that is determining your success or your physique, when really it's the consistency, the discipline, the dedication, and the mindfulness of how you
Yeah.
meet your macros and calories and
Uh-huh.
how that affects your body. But it's not I mean, you can have a pastry every single day in prep. You might be hungrier later, but it didn't matter. It's not going to be the game changer.
Yep. Yeah. No, if you're in your with your and there's no and I like to remove bad food and good food. And obviously, like we
Mhm.
know that whole foods are an important thing. But if you go through and you do that whole like smelling the cinnamon rolls, smells like last place, and you have that. No, I do use it every once in a while. If somebody is pushing food on me, I'll go and I don't want to eat it. I'll go, smells like cellulite, and I'll give it back to them, or I'll taste it, go taste like cellulite, because they're, beating me up about not having it, and that usually goes
Yeah.
silent on that.
Yeah.
But I've actually made it where it's a negative thing to say. It's a polite
Mhm.
way of me telling that person to get your food out of my face. I don't want it. I've already said no
Yeah.
thank you. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I really don't. I just, like you said, the food is not what's going to make us or break us. It's that mindset, and it's how we approach it. And, I'm a macro tracker. I have been. I swear to you, I downloaded my Fitness Pal before it was even a thing. I think there was like five choices on the data. Like when you would like chicken breast, it'd be like five options. Now there's like 6,000.
Yeah.
So I love macros and whatnot. And I do believe that as long as you're within your realm and you're focusing on those whole foods and performance foods. And I always talk about, and I just for myself, because I do have issues with certain foods digestively and
Yes.
autoimmune purposes. I have to be really careful with certain things. And so I avoid certain stuff. And a lot of times people will be like, well, it's good for you. You should have that. It's good for you. And I'm like, well, I'm okay if I have a pastry, except for that pastry has XYZ in it, and I'm going to feel like trash tomorrow. So I always
Mhm.
say the good food is the food that your body does well with. The bad food is the food that your body doesn't do well with. It has nothing to do with whether it's going to make you go up on the scale or down on the scale. It's whether or not you can digest it, whether it's good or bad. And that's another thing with that whole like idea of smelling the cinnamon rolls and saying it tastes like last place. Well, for somebody, I mean, I have girls that eat over 3,000 calories a day. That cinnamon roll is not going to be last place. In fact, they have to have that cinnamon roll because they
Yeah.
can't eat all their food.
Yeah. And then they might be distended in their gut if they're trying to get 3,000 calories in before stepping on stage.
Right. And well, even just through like improvement seasons and stuff too, like they just cannot eat all that whole food. I mean, girls that are 115 pounds, 120 pounds, and you're trying to pack in 400 grams of carbs on them, and they're like, I can't.
Yeah.
That's when we do divert to what people would consider bad, but it's not. It's actually very purposeful for them. So
I like that a lot. I think it's important to note that those bad and good foods can change too, because I notice like a lot of competitors struggle with gut health post
yeah.
preps because, your calories got so low, you really probably were eating from most of us, our calories get low. I'm not going to blanket statement that, but you're eating from maybe a more selective menu of
Yeah.
foods to nourish and fuel your body throughout the day that then post show as you're integrating other foods again, you could have a negative reaction. It doesn't mean it's going to be bad food forever, but it does mean we need to be
Yeah.
mindful. And
Yeah.
then you brought up the importance of considering like personal experiences. So you said autoimmune. I wasn't aware that you had one. So is that something you want to talk about?
Yeah, yeah. I try not to make it like I think when I first was diagnosed and I first went through the symptoms, I made it a lot about my disease. I like became it for a minute, and I really
Mm.
had to check that. I was like, I am not my disease. It was just an inconvenience in my life, and it's managed. So it's like fine.
Wow.
But that was one of the reasons why I took time away from the stage after that during COVID. Um, stress went straight up, and I had been in prep for so long, and during I think like a lot of people, I didn't like fully let things go because I'm a very healthy. I enjoy my healthy food, but I
Hmm.
definitely was eating a lot of things that I normally wouldn't. And I developed I had Graves' disease for a long time, but then I didn't know. And then it brought it out to the surface because my stress was too high. I wasn't managing my food properly. sleep was poor. I mean, everything was just popping off, and it allowed the auto disease to come to surface. And I had been dealing with it for a long time because I had all these weird symptoms, but they were always managed. It's just because that prep life can really keep those things tucked away. And we realized that my grandma most likely had it, on my dad's side, because it can be very genetically tied. And I was talking to my mom, and I was like, grandma had XYZ all the time, and she acted like this. My mom was like, she very well could have had it. And it did, as Graves' disease, usually when it goes up, it does go to Hashimoto's. So I have Hashimoto's, but I'm unmedicated. They killed my thyroid. Unfortunately, I didn't want to. I was adamant against it, but the doctor literally was like, you're going to die if you don't take this medication. And then I had friends that were in the medical field, and they're like, you're going to die if you don't take this. And I was like, no, I know that there's other ways to do this. But it got so bad, I just took this medication. I can't even tell you what it's called. It starts with an M. It like kills your thyroid, which is so annoying because I used to have the best metabolism ever. and especially during the Graves' disease. And back when it first started, I was like, dang, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I just eat all the time. And I was always like, I kept losing weight, but then it got like scary, everything popped off with that. And then I finally got medical attention, but I'm unmedicated. I just managed through diet, which makes it very easy to eat a certain way, because if I don't, I get hosh face, I get these crazy eyes, and I'll tell people, I'm like, oh, I look a little crazy today because my face will just blow up like a balloon, which is not fun at all. But it does help. It helps you know that this food is not good for me. And I think that helped me also translate to my clients, like, this is not good for me. I don't eat it. It's not a bad food, but it makes me sick. And this food makes me feel good. So I'm going to eat this one and not that one. And so that's also why dieting is easy for me, or eating the way I do is really easy for me, because I feel good.
Exactly. I think that's such a great learning opportunity too, is like when you can connect your reasons for eating to things beyond macros and physique goals, you're going to be more motivated and inspired to nourish your body in that way, because you see the benefit of it from multiple perspectives and angles, where regardless of how your body responds from a weight loss or a weight gain perspective, I feel better. And sometimes you don't know what doesn't make you feel your best until you seek treatment for something, or you recognize symptoms maybe aren't normal, or they come to the surface. Like I treated SIBO this improvement season, I treated SIBO. I realized my face, I have a round head. Okay, y'all, I already know, but like, but
you age better.
What was that?
You age better with a round face.
Oh, wow. That's good news. That's probably why my mom looked so young, because she had a round face too. But like, I remember I used to have a swollen face like before the SIBO treatment. And then when we treated SIBO, I was like, my face isn't swollen anymore.
All the inflammation.
Yeah. And then when you were talking about, you could relate it back to your grandmother, I thought there's so many of us too who are raised in environments where we're told our symptoms or our experiences are just normal because they experienced it and didn't get help. But that doesn't mean we should just normalize it and not get help. Because you're managing it, and you have been managing it through a healthy diet, I thought it was so fascinating. You said prep can help to mitigate those things. Do you think that's because it's so anti-inflammatory in nature
Yeah, you're so structured, and you know exactly what you're eating, whether you're tracking macros or following a meal plan. And if you eat something, and I have my girls, if they complain about bloating or constipation, I have them take notes within 20, 30 minutes after eating a meal. And I'm like, I want you to note down how you feel after each meal, note exactly what vegetables you chose. And so we can start weeding out, problems. And that is so why it stays, with an autoimmune, especially, you can really control it because you're so, everything's the same. And when a food bothers you, you take it out, and then you add something in that doesn't bother you. So prep can actually be very healthy until we get down to like 10% body fat. Then nobody, that is what it is. But all the way through, it can be really healthy. And even there, it can be such a consistent, steady stream of nutrition for your body, and it knows what to expect. I always talk about like how our bodies are their only job is to keep us alive. Like that's all our body's here for, as women to produce life and to keep you alive. That is all we do. Men, you're going to produce life, but you know, not to the level we do.
Not build it.
Not without us. Well, we can't do that too either. But we need the men, okay? And I'm pro man here. You know, I got off track and now I glitched. My brain glitched on me. I can't remember where I was going with that.
Prep being very healthy up
yeah.
until
up until we get to that point. But it can still be because our bodies are meant to keep us alive. That's all they do. So if you show it, it's safe. If you're somebody, and I talk about this all the time with my girls, especially my like new competitors, when they're getting post-show. I talk about post-show blues, of course, about dopamine, about, you know, how we chase it with food because we felt it with food, all of those things, and how you have to reverse diet properly and the need for that, because we're in such a depleted state that the body's going to do everything it can to put fat on to make you safe. And it's going to tell you to eat more. It's going to trigger you to eat more, even though you are getting enough in. And you have to be very aware that the body's just trying to keep you alive. And if you're post-show and you're like this with your diet and your exercise, eventually the body goes, I don't know what's going on, and I'm not going to respond anymore. Even if you level out on weight gain, when you go to lose weight, a lot of times it doesn't feel safe because it's been through this. So if you're on prep and you're consistently feeding at pretty much the same times, same amount, even though it's not enough food, you know, for our bodies, they want more, it knows it's safe. It's not doing feast or famine mode. It's like your body knows, and I'm not, you know, a doctor. This is just my experience and how I kind of correlate what I do and what I experience. But you teach your body that it's safe, and that's part of that, also that positive talk, like, you know, you're doing good. You know, don't beat it up. You're doing good for me. It's just that, like, teaching it's safe, and then it just really truly can be a very relaxed state for your body, you know, especially if that mind's in the right place. It doesn't have to be as bad. But again, nobody is healthy under 10% body fat. It's just we have to accept that.
That's all such great insight, especially for post-show and how people can be thinking about that and how to approach it. I think it's important to recognize the bodybuilding lifestyle is very healthy. And I love that this is what you're saying and you're promoting, because I think that it's gotten a bad rap for being unhealthy, but really that's because, one, I think languaging, which we've touched on earlier, people complaining about a choice they're making. But two, I think it's the aftermath and right before the show where people are like, you look scary. Because I know, you know, we know when you walk into the gym, maybe 2 weeks before your show, people are like, are you okay? Yeah, like they're you good over there? Like something's going on. And truthfully, like the bodybuilding lifestyle is so healthy. And I always look at it as like a form of self-care. Because in school for counseling, they were like, well, it's actually ironic. They ask us like about how we take care of ourselves as counselors and make sure we have a self-care routine, even though the job itself doesn't elicit much of that in the industry. It's kind of strange. But as far as self-care, I remember reflecting on this, going, the bodybuilding lifestyle is self-care. It requires you to prime your mind. It requires you to feed your body, and it requires you to move your body and recover, rest, sleep. Okay, this is a great lifestyle. So I think when we separate it from, I'm doing this so I can step on stage and get that. And instead go, I'm doing this because, like you said, fit for life instead of a moment, it'll positively impact you. Just like you've seen, it influences your clients well, it influences your family well, and you've been able to manage it through different phases of life. Yeah,
and you really just, you know, if you build your life a healthy fit life, and you know, I don't want to say it's easier for me than other people, because like I said, I was getting up at, you know, taking my daughter at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was doing 2 days. I was working all the time, you know, and we were so broke, and like even buying chicken breasts and stuff, because we were chasing a dream, my husband's fight career, you know, and we were just doing everything we can in those early 20s and those mid 20s to survive. But it gave such a structure and an outlet, and it was such a positive mindset during all of that chaos going on. And I think that it can just be so, I have a lot of women, this might be off topic a tiny bit, but I have a lot of women that will be going through, like, they come to get training and stuff when they're going through divorces, something crazy, maybe some kid problems, things like that. And it can give you this amazing structure that carries everywhere. So it's not just about the hour, hour and a half, 2 hours you spend in the gym. It's not just about the food that you're eating. It literally translates everywhere. And it gives you a sense of control when the world's out of control. And so I always tell people, some of my girls, if they're going through, I only prep females, which is why I say my girls. So when they're going through something with like a spouse or a kid, I'm like, you know what? The one thing you can count on is this. I was like, you can count on how your body's going to respond. You can count on, that your workouts are going to be great. You can count on that you're having your next meal. You don't have to think, just do these things heads down. And I really feel it carries a lot of people through like chaotic times in life. And so it can be super, super healthy, but it has to be more of a lifestyle, not that moment. Because if you're only chasing that moment, as soon as it's done, you're like, now what? And I definitely had that in my first couple of shows. I was like, what do I do with my hands?
Yeah, exactly. Totally. That's such a great point. And I think it speaks to getting into this for the right reasons, or evaluating your reasons consistently and then reinforcing the process more than the product or the outcome, and
I love
seeing
that.
the value. And it's interesting too, because most struggles in life, or adjustments of life, and or mental health struggles and disorders or personality concerns could be addressed through structured lifestyle, and behavior really does influence that. So to set our days up in such a way that is indicative of wanting structure, and the knowing or maybe predictability is good. And also, structure or your schedule will be created for you if you don't create it for yourself. We can't deny the fact that if we don't set our days up, our days will set themselves up anyway. So why not set them up in a way that indicates what it is that we desire from our life? And sure, there's going to be clogged toilet moments. You got to unclog the toilet, go about your course. But if you don't create a routine, one will be created for you. So it's important that we establish what is going to be best. And you mentioned that in your early 20s, you were really building your lifestyle. You're chasing the dream with your husband. And I think it's amazing. You're both professional athletes. So do you feel that him being an athlete and him having this passion for a healthy lifestyle too is helpful to your journey or to your fitness lifestyle as a family?
Oh, 100%, 100%. Because he's never once been down on me about my gym time. Like, I mean, even back in the day when I would do the 2-a-days or whatever it is, and to this day I could be like, I got to go work out. Like, I have to go get some mental relief, and he'll be like, go. I mean, we could be in the middle of a drag out fight, and I'm like, I got to go lift some weights or I'm going to lose it. And he's like, go. Like, no problem with that at all. And same with me. Like, if he's in the gym, I don't care how long he's there for. If he is doing, it's therapy, it's good for us, and we understand that. Even traveling. So I know a lot of people have a hard time working out when they're traveling, and and he doesn't work out as much as I do. I'd say, like, on the go and stuff. He's a lot more flexible than I am. He's a lot more like mentally stable than me, I guess. I need it. I need to get that, that energy out. And he's a little bit better that way. He can take a little bit more rest. I do take rest days, don't get me wrong, but like, he's better about it than I am. And I love trying new gyms when I travel. Like, it's one of my favorite things. And he'll usually join me, if there's a really cool gym, I'll get him to go and stuff too. And he does want to lift. And so does my daughter. She'll get the lifts on with me. But neither one of them, if I need to take a break or I want to get up extra early to hit the gym before we head out, my daughter and my husband, neither one of them ever go, Mom, you're going to ruin, we don't have time now for this. And it's never. Food wise, sometimes my husband wishes I would be a little bit looser.
Yeah.
Because one of my love languages is food. I love to feed people. I cook very good lean stuff and very good not lean stuff. I definitely have like the skinny side and the happy side with my cooking. Yeah. And he doesn't cook for people, but he likes to share. And so he'll be like, oh, you gotta taste. And sometimes I'm like, I don't want to have a taste. And it'll be more so because I know if I have a taste of that, because I love my sugars. If I have it, it's like done. Like, I'm going to crave it. It's not that I'm going to continue cave into it, but I'm going to wish I was having it. And sometimes even when I'm not in prep mode, I don't want that. I don't want to be craving this food. So I'm like, I'll have it when I feel a little bit emotionally less connected to that. Like right now that donut has a lot of emotion. So sometimes he's like, oh, I just wish you would eat this with me. But I tell you what, when I discovered that I was completely lactose intolerant, it was so easy because we'd have pizza and all these things and I'd be sick the rest of the time. Like we had one of our anniversaries, we went to Fogo de Chao and we had like cheese bread and all these things. This is horrible, but I spent the entire anniversary in the bathroom. I was so sick.
Yeah.
And after all of that, and that was a long time ago, and he was like, maybe you shouldn't be eating these things.
Yeah.
I was like, I
this
can't
is not my
participate.
love language anymore.
I'm sick. So that's the only thing that he wishes. But my daughter, she's great. Like she eats just like me. She loves the food. She even said it last night, actually. She was having frozen blueberries with some Cocoa Whip. We love the Cocoa Whip. It's like the Cool Whip alternative.
Yeah, so good.
And she's like, Mom, she's like, I don't even crave ice cream and stuff. She's like, I just want to have this at the end of the night. And I was like, music to my ears.
Totally.
Like, just enjoying it. But yeah, no, both of them very supportive. My parents are very supportive too. Like we'll go visit my mom and I'll stay over there because they live about 4 or 5 hours away. And she always has egg whites in the fridge for me. I was griping last time I saw her because she threw away some of my seasonings that I had saved there.
Oh no.
Some seasonings. So my dad went and got me all the seasonings that they tossed. They got cakey, she said, but I was still disappointed.
Yeah, of course.
And because I use those Kernel popcorn seasonings.
Oh yeah. Oh, they do get cakey really easily.
Yeah. Especially with
really
humidity of any kind.
Yeah,
so she tossed them, and but my dad sent me a picture with brand new ones. So when I go over next time, I have my seasoning.
How sweet.
So,
That's so awesome. Having a supportive environment is key. Even if they don't live the same lifestyle, obviously yours does. But even if they don't, but they're supportive, that makes such a big difference. And to know that you can not just communicate those boundaries, but know that they'll be respected.
Yeah.
Sure, sometimes maybe some pushback or some, but for the most part, like they get you. That's really amazing. And I think if there's people listening who maybe don't have that or struggle with that, communication is, I think, really important in these times, as well as like establishing what the missing piece is when this lifestyle changes. Because oftentimes when we change our life or lifestyle, the people in our life have to grieve the version of us that they once knew.
Yes. Yeah.
So then you're like walking them through that, like, okay, I know we used to always go out for ice cream, but now I'm lactose intolerant. So what can we do to still satisfy this fun experience that we used to have? And I think that approaching it like that, instead of what I hear a lot of times in the fitness space is cut anybody out in your life who doesn't support you and your goals. And I just don't find that to be conducive to a long-term healthy life, because relationships are important too. So how do you encourage your clients who maybe don't have that supportive environment, or maybe who are wanting to create a healthier lifestyle but don't know how that will look with building a family or having their family?
So kind of back to what I said a little bit ago about not making it about yourself. And so that's what I always telling them. I'm like, don't say you can't have that. You say, no, thank you. I'm good. I don't need any. I don't want any right now. You don't say you can't, because as soon as you're telling your significant other you can't have something and you have that look on your face like you want it, they actually want you to have it even more. Because they're like, oh, you really want it, and they want to make you happy and they want to enjoy this with you. And same with like going out to eat and stuff. Like I can't tell you how many times, even today, like we'll go places. I don't eat like fried food for the most part. Now I love a good sweet potato fry. I will still everybody's french fries. Like I will eat those. Don't be wrong. I pick and choose what's worth it. But if I don't eat a lot of grease spots, and I don't want to go somewhere and have a iceberg lettuce and like some oil covered, canola oil covered chicken breast is like my dinner. I'm like, yay, this is delicious. So a lot of times I will eat before I go, but I don't say, no, we can't go there. And there used to be like my husband and stuff would say, well, Melanie can't eat there. And I'm like, no, it's not that I can't. I just don't want what is there. And so I will order that plain iceberg salad and pick around it and participate, whatever. And then I eat on my own later on. And I tell them all the time, like, that's just what you got to do. Sometimes you can go out with your girlfriends and have drinks, but guess what? You're drinking Diet Coke all night and you're having the best time. And every single time my girls do that, they're like, I had so much fun being the DD. And I was like, it's amazing. Like, you don't need to participate in these unhealthy behaviors, or even if it's a healthy behavior, sacrifice your goal. And then you have to learn to communicate in a way of not self-centered, but allowing it still to be self-centered. You know, like you don't make them think that your priorities are more important than they are to you. So that's a big deal. Like your priorities are more important to you, or super important to you, right? It doesn't mean that your priorities are important to them, you know, and especially if it's somebody who doesn't support competing at all. There's a lot of that, you know, there's spouses that absolutely hate it, boyfriends that hate it, a lot of jealousy. And I always remind them that just don't make it about you. Even on show day, yes, it's your day, but don't over hype it up, you know, like just experience it for yourself. If they can't share the joy with you in it, don't share it with them, because they're going to rob you of some of that joy by trying to share it with them, because they will not find the joy in it at that time. And maybe that's just because you, like you said, a part of that person died when they decide to go this route in life, and the person hasn't accepted that yet. And so it's like, give them time, you know, like give them time to learn the new you, and don't make everything, I can't, I have to. It's like, no, I want to. This is what I want. And I think that helps people a lot, because when your loved ones see you, what they consider suffering, they don't like it.
Exactly.
Especially parents. You know, if you're suffering, your mom's going to be like, you know, you're already looking emaciated, and you're telling her how hungry you are and how tired you are, and you're crying to her about things. She's not going to want you to do it. She's not going to be supportive of the lifestyle, because she's thinking it's hurting you. So if you make it like, oh, today's tough, but whew, made it, you know, and then they're like, oh, wow, you're amazing. Your dedication is awesome. So it's all that language. And by saying those things, you also, you know, install that you feeding yourself. So you're feeding your family and your loved ones this positivity with the approach of it. And then you're also feeding yourself. And that makes the reverse dieting, the post-show stuff 10 times better. Because if it's, I can't, the moment the show's over, you're going to crumble cookie, and you're going to can, you know, you're going to can on all those cookies. And then you feel terrible physically, mentally, emotionally, and all that. So it's really just that it's about you, but it doesn't mean it's about everybody else. Like everybody else doesn't have to make it about you, I guess, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, I love that. Like they're still important to you in your life, and you're important to you in your life. And so having harmony between those things, and knowing that they want what's best for you, most often giving them the benefit of the doubt. So showing them that it's making you better, or it's adding to your life, is really important. And I also had to learn that there were times where I needed to be open to the people I really trusted, their feedback as well. There were times where I think my mom probably identified disordered pathways before I did, but she was always so supportive, like in general. So it was easier for me to listen and go, well, she does support bodybuilding, but she is pointing out that this seems to be a little bit off, but she always did it in such a loving way. So I think also maintaining open dialogue with people about why you're doing what you're doing and how it might change over the seasons or expectations. And I love how you said, don't make it about, I can't do this because I'm prepping for a show. Because then as soon as that show's done, everyone's going to be like, well, now you can.
Yeah.
So instead, making it about other things. I really like that point a lot. So I just wanted to reiterate that, because I think that can make a huge difference. And then you also said doing it for you and fully embracing the joy on your own without expecting others to do the same. And I notice, and this is something I had mentioned to you before we recorded, I wanted to discuss with you, which is a lot of the times athletes will post about themselves, their life, their preps. I don't see that from you. I see more so the transformations, the clients, maybe some tips or recipes. So I was just curious your thoughts on social media promotion or the sharing of your personal journey.
Yeah, so I definitely was more of that person in the past. One of the things that really got me was when my daughter was in middle school. So obviously you're sexy. Let's be real. You're a bikini competitor. It's sexy. The photo shoots are sexy. The stage photos are sexy. I've never been an overtly sexual person, so I'm very conservative, you know, like I mean, this was like, you know, I keep everything up, and I hardly ever like show abs and things like that. But she had boys following me and saying, your mom. And it was just like, I think she was probably 6th grade, and I was like, nope, we're done. And I actually gave her my phone and gave her my Instagram, and I said, do you want to redo my Instagram to make it more like culturally what's cool right now? And she took off like all of my you know, and I never had like booty
Awesome.
shots. I was always conservative with it, but she took them all straight off. And it was a good thing. It was like cleansing for both of us to kind of, for me to detach from myself and trying to, and I never been somebody who was trying to validate. I think I was trying to validate what I do, because you're, especially in those times, like, I was still not to the point where I was just comfortable being who I am. You know, I wasn't comfortable if I put on weight. You know, I didn't want people to see me when I put on weight. So it was all the glory photos and all of that stuff all the time, and just all this like me. I'm so amazing. Not that I'm not really not an egotistical person. Like, I actually take losses really well. I'm really good at losing things. I'm like, okay, I'll do better next time. But it was more so, you know, a little bit of validation and things out there. And I didn't need that anymore, because I had truly come into myself. And I think we hit a certain age as women, especially, and we just come into ourselves. And I came into myself as a fitness competitor. And that was before I got my pro card and everything. I just came into myself and really do this for myself. And I always did it for myself, but I mean, we all love external validation. Let's be real. You know, we love to hear it. Just like I said, when I go into a bathroom, if another woman's complimenting my arms, I'm like, yeah, thanks, you know, like, it makes me feel really good. But I don't need that through like all the social media stuff anymore. And I didn't want my daughter to see me in that light and deal with people making comments about her overly, you know, fit mom, you know, whether it was negative or positive. And when I started promoting more of my girls and talking about them more and more, it actually just helps me live the life even better. I mean, I'm sure you experience this because you do counseling. It's like when you counsel somebody or you coach somebody that has something that maybe correlates to you, boy, do you feel like it is so therapeutic. I coached high school cheer and competitive cheer for 6 years, and way back when I started, like 19 years old. And it was the most therapeutic thing I could have done at that stage in my life. I got married at 19. You know, I pretty much quit going to college. We were together through high school and stuff. I was still working towards like my degree in nutrition. I wanted to be a dietitian. And I switched courses and went the personal training route, and then with the coaching and stuff. But it was so therapeutic for me to help these girls because they weren't even that much younger than me at 19 years old. And so when I started counseling them and working with them on their athletic abilities, it built me up in such a positive way. And I still get that and sometimes I have to redo what I'm writing because I will be so wordy with my girls. Like, I'll just go on long tangents. I'm like, nobody's going to read this. This is all for me. So I take it off. So I find huge value for myself by making other people successful or helping other people become successful. I can't make them do it. I can only help them get there. And when I can share like a healthy journey with them, like maybe we struggled really hard, we had to go really tight at some point, and we brought it into a healthier place and things go really well. When I get to promote that, it's so like reassuring to me on even the life that I live, if that makes sense.
It does. It makes perfect
it's like
sense.
It just makes you better, you know. And so that's why I do. And I could promote more, but I don't know. I don't need the attention.
I hear you on that. There's so much I want to say. So first and foremost, I think your point about we all want external validation. That's a good point. I think on many levels, external validation is almost a compass or a reminder that we belong. And as women, especially, that's important. But too much of it or too much craving or needing of it is when it becomes a reliance on it. It's not so good. So I like your distinction there. Also appreciate how you brought up your daughter and what was happening, because I remember Carla Garthwaite. I interviewed her years and years ago, but she said she had the same exact story about her social media and her daughter. And I found that to be really interesting. And I think we've all had phases on Instagram where maybe we post things that, looking back, we're like, actually, I don't know that that's a representation of me. Yeah, like I'm a little bit cringed at myself. But it's nice when I like how you said it was cleansing for you in many ways. I think that's really valuable and probably personally insightful too. Maybe gave you insight into where you were getting more external validation that you didn't need necessarily, reconnected to yourself, you said. And then it got me thinking about how much now competing and social media seem to be intertwined.
Yeah.
People view it as the same identity. And this is something I'm finding come up quite a bit with clients, actually, specifically the clients who have never competed before, but are working on their mental health or working on their relationship with food, their body, their overall identity. And many of them will tell me that they don't feel like they can post or dress a certain way or say that they're a competitor because, one, they haven't competed, and two, because they don't look like this. And I'm like, when did we decide that a competitor posts like this or wears the crop top or posts their transformations and their personal physique updates every week? Like, some do. Like, I know for me personally, I post my check-ins every week. I know I'll post a gym selfie. Like, I know those things, but that doesn't make me any more or less of a competitor. It's not the same. So I think it's interesting, and you've been in this sport for a long time too. There's been this transformation of now there's an intertwining of social media and competing, almost like you have to have both. If you've ever struggled in your prep or your improvement season or any transition phase in this sport, you know how valuable it is to have that direct guidance and support, but it's so difficult to find, which is exactly why I created the on-demand mindset coaching platform for competitors. That is only $9.99 per month. How it works is you log into the system and you select what season you're in, and then you're prompted to select a struggle you're facing, and then even more specific struggles branching off of that. And at your fingertips, you will be given direct guidance and support with a PDF resource as well as video trainings. And you have tons of access to years of group coaching calls that you're more than welcome to replay and watch, and you get access to a live group coaching call every single month. So you're not only getting support at your fingertips, but you're also getting an incredible community there to support you along your journey. If this is something you're interested in learning more about and exploring, you can sign up at www.celestial.fit/on-demand and get access to this right away. There are no other join fees or cancel fees, so you can come and go as you please, and you are always welcome to be in the Build More Than Just a Body community.
Yeah, and it is big, and I love what you said about, like, especially like first-time competitors, people who don't compete, they think they need to be what these other girls are. And we already talked about, like, that your stage body is not your real body. Like, that's an open day thing. And the gym lighting, that's not. And I've had clients, I mean, I worked with for quite a few years, and I love her to death. And she'll be like, I don't look like, in my photos of the gym, I look so good. And then I send these check-in photos, and I'm like, well, you have a pump, you're fed, you're sending me fasted photos first thing in the morning. I'm like, you're not supposed to look like that right now. And it's hard for people to, like, disengage from what they put on social media and how they present themselves to what they really are. And like I said to you, like, before we started, I'm such an open book. And back in the day, I posted like everything under the sun. I was that girl that like showed every meal I was eating, and that was another thing too, is just all that constant, like, that's all you're having, or wow, just, I don't mind sharing my recipes and that stuff. I love that. I love showing people how to live a good life this way. But the negative comments, like, oh, you're so skinny, it's gross. I'm like, well, yeah, I know I'm so skinny right now. I don't like either.
I don't like it myself right now.
You don't tell me I look bad. I know I do. So just taking me off of it, and, a little bit here and there, I no longer, like, I don't care. If I'm not happy with myself, then I fix it. If I'm happy with myself, then I stay there. And I also don't look in the mirrors all the time anymore, like, at all. Like, I actually will go, I put my makeup on in the morning, which is the same makeup I've worn since I was like 16. Like, it's just basic, out the door. But I don't look at myself. I don't sit there and I don't take progress pictures, which is a very negative thing, I'm sure. I will when I'm in prep mode, but it's like probably around 8 weeks out, I really start. Like, I might do one originally and then down, because I don't need to sit there and pick myself apart. And I don't post it. I love when people do. I think it's amazing, but I don't need social media to be my journal of my progress. And I think a lot of people love that. Now, if I do end up competing where I want to, I'll probably show a little bit, because my girls are going to want to see it. And it's not for much else than the fact that I want all my girls know that I live this life. You know, I'll hear it all the time from them. Like, you make me feel like this is doable. And I love that you walk the walk, you talk, you don't just talk. I definitely walk the walk. I never ask my girls to do more than I'm willing to, or more than I have done ever. And I always, when I ask them something hard of them, I'm like, okay, just so you know, I would do this too. Like, I wouldn't ask this of you if I could not do it myself or would not do it. So I'll probably post a little bit so they can see some of the process, but it won't be posted. It'll probably be like in my feed, just really quick. But I don't focus on, I just do the work, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I live the life and you just put your head down and you just do it. I'm self-coached, so I know how I look and feel. And like you said, I've been doing this forever.
Yeah.
I will get prep goggles though. I'll 100% will. And I definitely have to reach out towards the end and have my people that I trust, like, check me.
Yeah.
Like, no, Melanie, you're not lean enough, or no, Melanie, you're too lean. Like, I have to have that. But yeah, I don't need to see myself all the time, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think that's a good point. Like, there's what this is saying is there's different ways to approach this.
Yeah.
You don't have to be on social media. You can be on social media. You don't have to post this way. You can post this way. It's really what's feeding your journey in the most productive way and what's helping you make it less about yourself and more about the process. And I think, like, I started sharing my check-in photos every week on my story years ago because I remember wishing other people would show their improvement season.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to show them. And it helped me normalize. You were saying earlier, when you work with people and then you do those things too, like, there is a part of you that heals. And I remember, like, me doing that helped me to heal the part of me that was like, am I supposed to look like the It's like, well, this is how my body looks. So, and then, and then it helped. I got so much positive feedback, not about how I looked, about I feel free and excited to now show that. Yeah. Or to know I could do that. So, you working as a coach, obviously we've talked about some of your philosophy. We've talked about your approach. How did you start working with Team Elite Physique? And then I'll ask you about your own prepping journeys.
Yeah. So really randomly, actually, Adam reached out to me when they moved to Vegas. I had run into him a couple times, like at LVAC. And I remember he'd be like, and I was so ripped. And I was like, you know, constantly back then. I mean, I was really ready to go at all times. And he was like, are you competing soon? And I was like, no. And he's like, this is just how you look. I'm like, yeah, it is. It's not my genetics. It's my work ethic. And so he connected me that way. And then we talked on social media a couple times. And then he just reached out to me and asked if I wanted to be part of their coaching staff.
Nice.
I was very hesitant, to be honest, and very hesitant because I have just really big philosophies and I wanted to make sure I didn't have to coach the way he wanted me to, that I could still coach from my heart, because I think that's a really big deal. I think you'll hear that from most of my girls. Like, we really bond and stuff. And because I coach my heart, I don't just coach to create winners. Like, I will coach you to win. That's the number one thing, right? But I'm also going to coach you to be a healthy, better version of you. And I didn't want to lose that. I didn't want to have to use like plans that were set. I created all my plans for so many years. I was like, can I use my stuff? You know, and obviously within reason, because he doesn't want coaches like, you know, conflicting on everything. But we were so aligned on beliefs. And then he let me kind of ease into it. You know, and he let me wait. I was waiting until my husband went back to Alaska. And so I wasn't taking on new work while he was home and stuff. And so he let me ease into it, which was really good. But our philosophies just aligned so well. I was like, okay, I'm going to go and join a team. But I was independent like forever. Like, I don't have bosses. I am a boss. You know, Adam's definitely my boss. But, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't having to sacrifice how I do things or who I am or my beliefs or like my values in life for a team. Even when it comes down to like PEDs and SARMs and things like that, I was like, at the time, I'm way more versed now. That's been a great thing. And it's so huge in our industry now. The last few years, it's just like, you haven't even been lifting for a year. Why are you over there on that stuff? Like, give your body some time to tap out before you look for helpers. I have a lot of girls that use, I don't put anything against people that use, and I don't put anything on people that don't use. It's a personal decision, right?
Right.
But I was really big on that. I was like, I don't know anything about PEDs and SARMs. And he was like, you don't have to. He's like, it's no big deal. And which I get a ton of the natural competitors, and I love, because they identify with me. I have a lot of girls that used to, and like I'm very good at that stuff now. I've been with Adam, gosh, like 3 years, and I've spent a lot of time researching and learning, because it is such a dominant thing in our industry, that I had to there. But I was really hesitant with the team, because I'd heard, not about Team Elite, I didn't hear anything bad, but I'd heard so many horror stories about coaches, and what these teams have these protocols where they give a girl a meal plan and there's a whole list of PEDs they want them to buy. And I'm just like, homie, don't play that. Like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And so he was great with it. And he was like, no, I love what you do. He's like, I love what your clients, they look amazing. And I like your philosophy, the same as mine. So that's kind of how we connected. And I decided to, well, he came for me, but I decided that it was a good choice. I shouldn't say I decided.
It was aligned.
I'm blessed to be the team. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. To be honest, I think some coaches are better drug dealers than they are plan creators. Let's be real. So the fact that, you have the knowledge, you don't see it as like a must do or a mustn't do. It's just something you recognize in the industry. Your philosophy is aligned with Team Elite Physique. He sought you out mainly because he saw you were living the lifestyle. It sounds like you had prepped yourself for every show after your second show. So what was it like being self-coached? And can you explain what you mean or what you believe when you've said or mentioned that you think you would have gone pro faster had you not been self-coached?
Because you get in your own way. And, and I think competitors just generally, we tend to be like type A personalities, those who do it for the long haul. I think people can be like, whatever, and just want to do it and have a great time. They do it one season or one show, whatever it is. And then they're just like, I'm done with that life. But those of us who are very into this life, we're very type A personality. We're very structured. We like to have control. And so I had one other coach that I kind of sort of worked with at some point. I told him I wasn't going to follow his plans. He wanted me to join the team. And I said, I'm not going to do what you tell me to do if I don't agree with it, just so you know. And he was like, no. And I was like, I'm not going to pay you because I do this myself. And so he actually gave me some good insight, which was fine, but I never used his stuff. I was like, I'm not going to deplete on 0 carbs. Like, I know my body, like, it's not happening. Like, I'm not doing 90 minutes of cardio. Nice try. Because I knew my body, what it responded to. But I would have turned pro so much faster had I not gone my own way. So I didn't have any advice on which shows to choose, and I didn't have, with bodybuilding, there is a game plan, there really is, like getting in front of certain judges, get that feedback, applying their feedback, and then getting in front of them again, not going in front of another group of judges, but getting in front of those judges again. So, and it's good to be in front of other judges, but if you're shooting for to get your pro card at USA's, you need to be in front of those judges that are judging USA's. You need to get their feedback, you need to apply it, and show up again for them, and the way they want you to. But I didn't have that. I didn't have any game plan. Look, there's a show here, I'm going to do it. Look, there's a show there, I'm going to do it. So I was just around. And then prep goggles, I would just deplete too much, 90% of the time. So at 4 weeks out, I identified with myself years ago that at 4 weeks out, that's my weird time. That's when I start going, I can have more because I'm far enough out, or I start thinking I'm not ready enough. And I just start manipulating hard. Yeah, whichever direction I'm going, I just start getting a little scrambled. So I know for me at 4 weeks out, I actually will always keep it. I'm a pen and paper girl. I have all my notepads. And so I'll have it in my notes, in my calendars and stuff, 4 weeks out, prepare yourself. Because I know I'm going to start questioning where I'm at. And there was a lot of times I fudged up peaks. I mean, I'd come in just so emaciated, or I'd come in just too watery. And it's because I didn't have another set of eyes on me telling me that I had prep goggles and that I wasn't seeing myself properly. And I didn't have somebody that would listen to the judge's feedback and help me translate that. I had to try to figure it out myself. And that was really hard. And then also just back then I did track my progress really well, weekly weigh-ins, photos and stuff like that. Like I said, I don't feel like I need to do that now. Because it's my body. My girls have to send it to me because I can't see what they look like, obviously, because they're, on the computer. So I can't see unless I get to see them in their photos and stuff. But I didn't, you know, back then I would do all that stuff and I would just gauge every little micro adjustment on my body in a not positive manner. And I'd beat myself up so much. And it got really hard. It got really hard.
Oh, yeah.
There was times I did like a nationals, I did junior USAs, and I decided to do it because a friend that I was helping coach at the time was doing it. And I just showed up I looked horrible in my opinion, completely. And I wasn't able to gauge it on myself until I saw the photos. And I was like, where was my head? Why did I think I should have been doing this national show? I wasn't ready for it. I needed to put in more work. And that was always a thing. So whether I put in too much work for too long or I didn't put in enough, and it's just because I didn't have somebody else that I trusted to tell me, Melanie, no or yes. Like, I think everybody needs that. And I do have that now. So even like with this one, if I do end up doing the show that I want to do, I have people that will check me like full on.
Good.
Which is good.
So what would you say to someone who is like, I want to do a show, but I need a self coach, or I just want to coach myself? What would you encourage, or how would you encourage them, or what would you tell them?
To work with a coach that will guide you and listen to you and take your feedback serious. And so, and I have those girls that are like personal trainers, or they've been doing this for a long time already, and I listen to them. I always tell them up front, like, hey, there might be a time when you're going to tell me something. I'm going to say, no, it's not going to work. Like, you're getting in your own way. That's not going to happen. But I take all the, like, I'm starting a peak week with one of my girls, and she gave me feedback like, hey, can I have just these 2 carb sources? Because I feel so much better. And we just did another show 4 weeks ago. Feel so much better, these 2 carb sources. And I was like, absolutely. I was like, perfect feedback. I needed that. So thank you for telling me. That's what we're going to use. And so if you're somebody that wants to coach yourself fully, one, if it's your first show, you got to have some help. You got to make sure your posing's on par. You're going to think that you're looking amazing, girl, and you're probably not. Like, let's be real. Somebody's going to help you pick your suit, your colors, because what we want isn't always what's actually best for us in this sport. And those people always expect a lot of themselves. That's why they want to do it themselves, because they expect so much. And then, you know, those first few shows, you don't have any like guidance, and you're watching YouTube videos, you're on Instagram, you don't look like Laura Lee, you don't look like Amy, and you think that you're not supposed to yet. Like, this is your chapter 1, that's your chapter 20. Like, you're not supposed to be there yet. So somebody who wants to really be involved in their own prep, work with a coach that will let you be involved with your prep and will listen to you, but will also tell you no. Because there's, you know, ones that are like, okay, that's what you want to do. But you have to have that coach that will listen, take all the feedback, and not cut you off when you're trying to tell them things, you know, not push it under the rug. And if they counteract what you want, like with a different idea, they need to be able to explain why. And so I always say, if I can't tell you why, I'm going to find out my why. Like, I'm not just going to tell you to do something and you ask me why, and if I can't answer that, I shouldn't have told you that. So that's a really big thing. So finding a coach that will communicate with you, listen to you, but also not be afraid to say no.
Absolutely. That's a good word for someone in that position. Because someone at the gym recently, you know, they were asking me about competing, and she told me she wanted to coach herself because of money. And I feel like that's also a concern, because I feel like coaching is the thing that we probably should set aside the money for. Maybe for your first show, rent a suit, and maybe for your first show, consider doing your own hair at the very least, if not your own makeup, you know? But I was like, I really think having a coach is important. There's so many great resources out there, but it can start getting overwhelming. And I think if finances is the concern, like, bodybuilding is expensive. And like, if you just want to do one show, maybe, but if you could potentially fall in love with this and keep going, I think having your finances totally in order to be able to do that is important, and not skimping on that, because like you just said, when you were self-coaching, you get those prep goggles, and then you might sabotage all the work you've been doing, and then you just spent all this money to do a show and compete, and it's like, if only you had a coach, even for that last bit of time, to just have eyes on you.
Yeah. You know, if you're somebody who's really efficient in the gym and you're well educated and you know how to build all that muscle, you can pick up a coach, you know, if you're in the right, you know, I've actually had people reach out to me multiple times through the years to ask me if they should start prep yet. And I tell people, like, even some girls that I've worked with and they take breaks, I'm not like, I know it's bad business, but I don't mind if my girls take breaks. I tell them to still communicate with me outside of the coaching. Like, let me know where you're at, you know, like check, like randomly on Instagram, send me a check-in photo and I'll tell you if I think you're 16 weeks out, if you're 20 weeks out, just little bits. Like, I don't like go into detail, but I'm like, hey, yo, you know, if you want to do this show, you need to come back into coaching sooner than later. And I'm really honest with it. So if somebody's good with all those things and they can build their body and then just have somebody their last 12, 16 weeks, the last 6 weeks, I've had people come in that way. It's hard because you don't know their system yet and you're trying to take over the prep and you're like, I don't know how you respond to things. I haven't been through this with you. I don't even know your mind and how it works. And, and what your schedule is, what your life is. So if you're financially, which you're right, competing is the most expensive hobby you'll ever have. It is not going to be your job. It is going to be your hobby. And it is so expensive. And so you need to make sure that you have money set aside. So like during your building phases, if you're that person, put that money away. So take the money that you would have spent on coaching, at least half of that, and stick it in, your funds for the show day, for the glam, for the suit, for the tan, all of it, so that you're not left broke and you can't go out to eat after the show because you can't afford to. Especially nowadays, man, even competing, prices of everything is just shot up. And then if you take somebody that lasts, 10, 12, 16 weeks, depending, and I would talk to that coach ahead of time. Don't just try to sign up. Like, communicate with them on social media, whichever way you can. Say, hey, I really want to work with you. I'm working on this. Are you okay with taking on somebody at 12 weeks out? So that way the coach knows and can follow you and follow your journey too. And that's why I do love when people like you post things too, because sometimes I'm following their journey, waiting for them to come back or waiting for them to come in. And I can kind of get a good idea. But that's me coaching with my heart and not with books, not with my bank account and stuff. So like I said, not for business, but
well, that's similar to Adam, because he would have a similar approach as far as like free consults and stuff in the beginning. I remember that's how he like started his business, was like a lot of just get the foot in the door, and I think
he'll reach out to people and be like, hey girl, you look amazing, you should do X, Y, and Z. And then, a lot of times the girls take his feedback and it's good. And I do love that. I'm the same way.
So. Yeah, I think it's actually good business to maintain that relationship or follow up and do that, because it can go such a long way for the athlete too, to know that you care and that they're in good hands. And then as far as like the coaching with self-coaching with another coach's eyes, I love that you emphasized make sure you are in touch with them prior, because there are some coaches who require, hey, you got to work with me for 6 months before I even consider prepping you, 3 months before I even consider prepping you, even if you're in decent or good athletic shape. Some coaches just won't take that on because they're like, well, what got you there? What's been going on? How are you doing that? So I like that you emphasize that. Now, I want to ask you about your opinion on the natural shows coming up, because as a natural athlete yourself, the announcement of 2025 enter a lot of new pro shows that are natural pro shows. How are you feeling about that? What do you foresee for your future? I know you said you want to maybe compete by the end of this year, but what are you kind of looking at, especially, does that even matter to you that there's more natural shows?
Oh, totally. And so totally does. Me getting on stage next to girls that are enhanced. I mean, I love my amount of muscle. I love my physique, but I'm not going to hold the same way they do. I have to diet a little bit slower, a little bit longer. I'm not going to have the size and mass they do. And it's discouraging knowing that you put in all that work. And I could use, like, there's no reason why I can't. I just choose not to. And having all these shows pop up natural is it's such a relief. And I think it's going to help the use taper down. I feel like girls, especially if they got the pro cards, they feel like they have to use, there's no way they can be competitive. I could be competitive against some pros for sure. Don't get me wrong. Am I trying to win the Olympia? No, I'm 40 years old. I'm almost 41. Like, I'm not, it is what it is. But having these options to put girls in, and I've had girls do both. So like in the Pacific Northwest, for a long time, they've been really good about natural shows. Often on Saturday is like the regular show. And then on Sunday will be the natural. And I have girls, we just did the Emerald Cup, and I had girls that do both. They did the Saturday show and the Sunday show. And what was great is they got the opportunity to see how they stack against girls that aren't natural. And then they got to see the girls that are actually in their lane. And I think that really helped a lot of people who don't want to go that route understand that there's still a place for them in this extreme fitness world without doing that stuff. I mean, your prep can still be super unhealthy, natural, don't get me wrong. And it can be super healthy, unnatural. It's just, you know, it's how you approach it and everything there. But and what people decide is healthy for them and what's not healthy for them. But the natural, when Tyler announced that, I was like, and everybody sent it to me. It was so cool. I probably had like 20 DMs with it. I was like, yes.
So exciting.
And so, yeah, it's really good. I do wish, I hope to see some masters naturals.
Oh yeah.
In the pro circuit. That'd be nice.
Do you think that's not likely because of a lot of people on hormone replacement therapy
Yeah, 100%. Yep. And I will say a lot of my girls that are older are on hormone replacement therapy. And I don't consider them unnatural. They just don't qualify.
Yeah.
But hormone replacement therapy is amazing when somebody is, you know, going through perimenopause, menopausal. If a guy's tanked out of testosterone, you know, things like that, like it is phenomenal. It can be life-changing for people to get balanced. We don't have to go through menopause and stuff like they did 20, 30 years ago. Like there is so much better ways to approach your mid life, you know, like 40 is not dead anymore. I remember thinking that 40 was like so old. And I look back at like my parents and the way they looked and the way their friends looked. They don't look like anything like I look, or a lot of my people look, my close friends and those who are in the fitness world. We look totally different. A lot of them, it's because they're on hormone replacement therapy. Some just the lifestyles there. But I don't have anything against, especially hormone replacement therapy, but it knocks you out. You can't do it. So
yeah, that's why I wonder if they haven't even introduced it for masters, because I wonder if they did any sort of market research or considered like so many of these girls are or women are, you know, doing that. You said earlier you could be enhanced, but you choose not to be. I was just curious if you're willing to share why you choose not to be.
Partially ego. I always say that I'm very open about that. It's like, you know, the saying, and I say, and there's nothing wrong with being a vegan or anything, but you know, the saying they say, how do you know somebody's vegan? It's because they tell you. Well, now I say, well, you know how somebody's a natural athlete?
They tell you.
So,
that's awesome.
So part of it's ego. And then the other part is I don't want other people, especially like my daughter, to think that she has to take things to look a certain way and to be excellent. You know, I don't want excellence to be tied to pharmaceuticals. And so, and I'm like that, and this will probably rub people the wrong way, but I didn't even fully vaccinate my child when she was little. So I exempted her from the moment she started kindergarten, because we had moved different states and they wanted all these different things. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not doing these pharmaceuticals. She doesn't need it, you know? And if she does need it, then we'll approach that down the line. And so I'm really like, and she's great. My daughter doesn't like take Tylenol. She doesn't take Advil. She's just like, she takes antibiotics when she's had to, but I'm super against antibiotics too. When they're needed, they're needed.
Exactly.
But people pop them like candy. And people, like I said, your body's only job is to keep us alive. Well, pharmaceuticals' job is to keep us in the pharmaceuticals. and that's the same with PEDs and SARMs. They don't create these. I mean, things like Anavar and stuff was, you know, they were created for medical purposes, and they have great benefits, but you have to have them if you have them. You know what I mean? It's like you can get off of it, yes, and you can still keep your gains. And, you know, the person who's struggling with cancer can get off of it after their treatment and hold the muscle that, you know, because that's what it was designed for.
Right.
And so there is purpose for it. And I do think there's time and a place, but I don't think that people should think the only way to get there is through pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
So, and that's my thing. And it's like,
that's so good and honest.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people are like, that's a touchy thing, especially nowadays, but my thoughts were there well before it was a touchy thing. I mean, I was very vocal. I've never taken a flu shot, never given my daughter one. I fought many people on it. I said, absolutely no way am I giving her a flu shot. Like, why would I? She gets the flu, she gets the flu. Guess what? Her antibodies kick in, like she gets, her immune system will kick in. It'll become stronger due to the virus that she's obtaining. So why do we got to mess with the body that's meant to keep you alive? And that's how I feel about even the stuff like our muscles are meant to grow under pressure and being fed. So if you're feeding your body properly and you're putting your muscles under pressure, they're going to do what they're supposed to do, which is grow. And a lot of people, when they start having a lot of like joint pains and stuff down the road. It's because they're able to push more weight than their body is at the ability to do. And so they start having elbow problems and wrist problems and hip problems and knee problems. And it's because they have not, they surpassed all of that growth phase through your bones and your ligaments and your tendons, and it's all in the muscle. Will give your body enough time to grow the way it's supposed to, and you won't need pharmaceuticals. You can keep growing without them. Everybody reaches a natural potential. I hate saying that because I feel like you do reach your natural potential, but I also feel like you can surpass that with some trickiness.
I agree.
Yeah, with some creativity and pushing past and pushing your limits. Maybe you have to do like an actual bulk, maybe you have to get completely uncomfortable. Maybe you have to take a serious time away from the gym and come back to to desensitize to, or to resensitize to it, because you're desensitized to the stimulants. And so it's just like caffeine and stuff too. Like you need to take a break so you works for you again, because everything, we desensitize to it. But again, like you will reach what you consider your natural potential. And if somebody decides to use, that's fine. Like it is what it is, but I would rather just push my body, keep my ego in check.
Yeah.
Let people know. And then just to show other people that you can do it. You can recover well, you can grow. I probably put on, since I competed last, I probably put on about 5 pounds of muscle, and which is awesome. That's for somebody huge. Yeah, totally natural and older. And
like that's a big deal.
Yeah. And so it's been years of building that there. But I've done it, and I want my daughter especially, and that's such a huge thing there because I'm super close with her too.
Yeah.
I don't want her to think that she needs things. And when I started focusing on that, and I started seeing how other people, my clients and just other people in general, were like, whoa, you can do this without all that. And I'm like, yeah, because I choose to.
Yeah.
But if I didn't want to, I could rush the process, but I don't want to rely on a pharmaceutical. So
isn't it funny too, though, like competing in previously for you, the NPC, now the IFBB, people just assume that you use though, because of the federation that you're in versus like, so you do hear people who are natural, like us say, well, I'm natural, because we almost have to be like, I'm in the federation that's not drug tested, but I would pass a drug test. But then people go, well, why don't you just compete in a natural federation, one that is drug tested? So I'm curious why you chose to stay in the NPC and, of course, now the IFBB.
Well, I think we all know it's the most prestigious. It just is. It's the most prestigious. And it's like, I love it. I'm a very loyal person. I have girls that compete in OCB and other, organizations too. I also, for me, if you even look back to what I looked like when I was much smaller and competing, I would not have done well in the OCB. I had way too much muscle. And I was
muscle. Yeah. I looked at your first stage shots. I was like, this girl has had muscle.
Yeah. And so I worked I don't want to say I worked too hard, but I did, you know what I mean? And for a long time. And I wouldn't have been rewarded in those organizations. If I went on the OCB stage as a pro OCB competitor, they'd be like, you don't fit our organization standards. And I like to be challenged. And so if I can step on a stage, a natural organization stage, looking 12 weeks out from the IFBB, I'm not being challenged. Like that's not pushing me past my limits. And I don't run from hard things. I kind of run into them. And so my husband always gets scared when I say I want to do something, because he's like, do it. If I talk about, I have to like preface things, like I'll say I want to move. I love this area, and he'll be like, and I'm like, no, I just like it. I'm not going there.
Suddenly you're like, I love this painting class I took. He's like, oh no, she's gonna
like, here we go. Professional painter.
So I'm glad you answered that. Thank you. And for just having that discussion with me. And overall, you've shared a lot of good insight, but can you give your best advice for someone who's never competed before but wants to, and then your best advice for someone who's on their road to pro?
For a brand new competitor, the financial side, honestly, put that money aside, because especially nowadays, it's so hard. And if you're having to put your shows on the credit cards, then you're not taking what the structure can bring you in the discipline. And so you have to be disciplined going into it. You need to be open-minded and willing to do things that are very uncomfortable. And you also need to do your own research. No matter how great your coach is, you need to know why you're being told to do things. Then I think a lot of new competitors, they go in blindly and they're led wrong a lot. And then also they don't have any knowledge of how to continue afterwards. And that's a big thing. I always say I do tell you, but I teach you too, because I want people to be understanding with their bodies, and I don't want to leave anybody flat. And so that's a big thing there. Getting your financial situation set, big time. Do your research and be willing to get very uncomfortable, because as a new competitor, you are going to discover so many weird things about yourself and have so many uncomfortable moments. And you have to be able to practice delayed gratification, and you have to be able to be uncomfortable. So that's really big for that. And I think, and just be willing, but also do your research. Don't take anybody's advice, know why they're giving it to you. And then for a person pushing for their pro card, don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's so important. You want to get in front of those judges, like we talked about, like the ones that you're going to be in front of. That's huge. So get in front of those judges, get in front of them again and again and again. But don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't think I'm going to turn pro at USA's. This is my show. No, you're aiming for USA's. You have to go in going, okay, I'm going to come in the best I absolutely can. I'm going to take that feedback, and then I'm going to do this show. I'm going to do that show. Whatever it is, have backup plans, because there's a good chance your plan's not going to work. And then people, they manifest it and they do all these things, and then they're like, it didn't transpire. And then they're just like devastated. Well, no, take that feedback and go to the next one and the next one. I was very I was repetitive. I did not give up until I got it. And that's what it took. But I also always had a back plan. If I don't do well at this show, okay, I'm taking 6 months off, and then I'm doing this one. And so I think having that and having the open mind, and you have to remember that you might win every single show, and then you're going to go show you're not going to win, because it's a different judging panel and it's different girls. And even though you're bringing the ideal bikini package, it doesn't mean that at that show everybody's gonna look the same as you. And so then you're being judged in a plane that is not the level that you were at the last show. And so maybe you did really good, super hard, and striated at this show because the other girls were too. Well, over here at this show, they're a little bit softer, and you're being compared to them. And it's a subjective sport. So judges are human. If they prefer blondes, they're not going to intentionally look at a blonde more, but they're going to. And if they look at the blonde more, they're going to probably call them out more, just because they're naturally drawn to them. And I always remind that to them, it's subjective, and judges are human. They do the best they can. But if they prefer a certain look, guess what? They're going to reward that look. Maybe it's not your look, and you have to accept that. So having the backup plan, I think, is just everything when you're really going for that level.
That's really good advice, and very honest, real, insightful. So thank you for that. And how can people follow your journey, connect with you, and even reach out about working with you?
Well, Instagram always works great. So I'm fit_by_Melanie, and I've had that forever. So when, the Fitspo stuff started happening, I was right there with everybody.
I know.
I used to go by Coach Melanie, now I'm just Fit by Melanie. And I wanted to change it, but I'm like, I'm not changing it forever. And I have an email tab there, and then there's a link straight to Team Elite. So if you click the link that says work with me, then you'll be directed straight into a questionnaire to work with me. And then, always reaching out to Coach Adam is great too. And he's so good about placing people in the right place. I love Team Elite. There's a lot of wonderful people involved in our team. And if Adam will put you where he thinks you need to be. So if you're not even sure that I'm the person to work with, maybe you want somebody who's does different stuff, has different approaches, Adam will be honest and be like, yo, that's the person to go with. But most of the time, if a natural girl comes in, he's going to say, you know what? Especially if you're a master's, he's like, you're going to talk to Melanie.
Love that.
So yeah, I'm always up for chatting. And I don't mind sharing tips and advice with anybody on Instagram. So somebody has a question, I don't have a lot of time. I don't spend a ton of time on social media, But if I have questions coming my way, I'm always happy to answer for people if they're just basic, easy questions too. So
Awesome. Well, we'll put that in the show notes page. You guys, that's always on celestial.fit/podcast. Not only will you find the links to connect with us, but you're also going to see a full episode summary, a bulleted list of the topics that we covered, and episode timestamps. This way you can share it with your teammates, your friends, your family, let them know what you liked about it. Or, of course, let us know you listened, tag us online, and let us know what your main takeaways were or that you appreciated it. That always goes a long way for the show as well as for the athletes. And if you feel super inspired to leave a rating, a review, that means a lot as well. So, or a comment on YouTube, because you guys, we do YouTube videos now. So this whole episode and most episodes have been recorded in video format too. So if you've been wanting to watch the podcast while you do your hours of cardio, just go to YouTube and then celestial_fit, and you can get entertained that way as well. But Melanie, thank you so much for joining us today.
yeah, thank you. It was really fun.
It was so fun, and I hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.